Hey everybody, Brian from Innisfil Creek Honey. End of January, it's again -21 or -22 outside. We're running low on mead, and I thought, today it's a nice cold day outside. It's a nice day to stay inside and make another batch of mead up. And I get a lot of questions all the time about meads, and everybody's interested in mead. And people are a little bit intimidated at first, but it is a very simple process in making mead or turning honey into wine. You need a few basic tools that you can pick up at any winemaking store. We have a 6-gallon pail. The pail has a airtight lid with a gasket in it and a little bung hole in it. In the bung hole goes a little bubbler, and it's a device that allows the CO2 to leak out as the fermentation process is happening, but it doesn't let oxygen back in. So we need one of those. We need a yeast, and this is a champagne yeast I've used a couple times before. It has a very high alcohol level in it, so it can survive at a higher level of alcohol, and I like using that. You need honey. And in this case, making this 6-gallon or 5.5-gallon pail of mead, we need 8 kilograms of honey. So it does take quite a bit of honey. We also need some pots, and we need some clean water. Water is a really a big part of this, and having clean water is important. So if you live in the city and you have chlorine in your water, you'll either want to let the chlorine off gas for a couple of days before you use your water. And if you live in the country, and like myself, we have horrible sulfur in our water, so it has a little bit of an odor to it. I actually go and buy water to make my mead to have a clean water to go into it that has no flavor. So we have water, we have our honey, and we have our yeast. The other thing you have to do is look at sanitizing all of your equipment, which is very important. Wine, when you're making any kind of wine with the yeast, any of the wild yeasts that are in the air or on your materials will create off tastes. And you can go to any wine store and you can buy a sanitization powder that will clean everything to make sure you're starting off with nothing. The first thing you do is you put your honey in your pail. And then you boil your water. You want to get your water quite hot. So you boil your water and add your water to your pail. So there's 8 kilograms of honey in here. And then I've topped it up with water and used my hygrometer as a device to tell me how much water I put in here. What I want, or what I like to have in my mead, is I like to have a specific gravity about 1140. And that, for me, gives me a mead that finishes at a quite high alcohol level, 16 to 17% approximately, and has a little bit of a residual sugar on the end of it. So it makes a nice sweet mead that has a high alcohol content. And this is something you can play around with. You can adjust the specific gravity at the beginning to have different alcohol contents and different drynesses or sweetnesses at the end. So very simple. You combine your boiling water with your honey. The boiling water helps the honey dissolve. You get your required specific gravity. Then you have to let the mead, or the must, they call it, cool down till it gets around 40 degrees Celsius. If it's hotter than 43 degrees Celsius, it'll kill the yeast that you're adding to it. Then we take our yeast. We take our hygrometer out, and we take our yeast, swirl it around, and pour it in the top. After we've poured it in the top, we simply put our top on our pail, make sure it's sealed down. We want to fill our bubbler up with a liquid that will stop the air from getting back in. I like to use a vodka, because a vodka, if a little bit gets into the top of the bubbler and goes back into the bucket for some reason, it will not react or not create a flavor with the mead. Then we put our lid back on our bubbler, and you can see already, just adding that yeast into it, that the bubbles are already starting to come out, which means the yeast is converting the sugars already into alcohol and generating carbon dioxide. This process now, we'll leave this in this pail for about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And after 2 to 3 weeks, we will then take that out of this pail and put it into a secondary carboy or a secondary container for the final fermentation process. And I'll do a follow-up video when we do that. So for now, Brian from Innisfil Creek Honey, we have the beginnings of our next batch of mead. If you'd like to try to make mead and you have any questions, give me a call, send an email off or post on Facebook here. I'd be happy to discuss a little bit with you and try to direct you in the right direction. Anyways, have a great day.